day. My name is TDMB Ganesh and I'm going to be giving a short video tutorial on R programming, the essentials. So let's get started. I'll be covering R objects, which are character, numeric, integer, complex, logical. Then I'll be going through vector, matrix, data frame, lists. And look at the scope, dynamic or lexical, conditionals, loops, packages, ST programming, and so on. Oops, this is not what I had intended. This is not about R programming, but it's about R programming, the essentials. In other words, I'll be basically touching upon the following topics: vectors, subsetting vectors, some vector operations, and I'll be touching on another very important data structure known as the data frames. I'll be dealing with subsetting data frames, searching data frames, cleaning data frames, and then doing some elementary plotting using base plot. And finally, I'll be touching upon the Dplyr package, in which I will talk about select, filter, arrange, and pipe. I've chosen these set of topics in R programming because I think these are the most essential and these are the things which you'll be using most often while getting started. And in these days, a lot of things has been changed when it comes to programming. Instead of using text editors like Notepad or VI or Emacs, which we used to use a decade before, we now have integrated development environments, IDEs, which help us to quickly write a program. These IDEs also come in with smarts, which detect syntax errors and other structural problems in your program and make programming much more easier. And it is my contention that one does not need to know cover to cover of a book for getting started on a particular programming language. One could just get started with some of the basic essentials like the one I've chosen, get started, and then learn as he progresses. Why is this so? This is because of our access to the internet, and with the internet and Google, we have the entire library of the world at our fingertips. So most of your questions can be answered with Google. In addition, you have sites like Stack Overflow, in which almost all types of questions have been asked in almost all languages, and you're very likely to find a question or type of programming construct from Stack Overflow. And a third important friend you would need to make in web programming is GitHub. So let's get started. So I would like to get started with this, and the first thing is you would need to download and install R. You could install the latest version, which is 3.3.2, and the site for this would be cranrproject.org, and you could download the latest version, download R for Linux, download R for Mac, and download R for Windows. And then subsequently you can download R Studio, which is a very useful integrated development environment for R, and because there are a lot of very useful things that R Studio does, which a normal R editor doesn't do. I don't really suggest that you have these two basic setup before getting started with R. So let's get started. The first type I would like to discuss is the vector. And a vector, you represent it like this. My vector, you have this arrow pointing towards the left, and then the letter C, and within parentheses you can have a list of numbers or characters or a combination of both. And vectors is basically a list of several elements of different types, the same or different types. So I'm not going to be typing any of the commands, and because that would waste time. Besides, the keystrokes are pretty loud, so I can just go to the particular line and then I'll just execute it. So this sets this vector to these values. Another way to use this set this vector is to use the normal assignment symbol as so, and so my vector is can take a value, can take all these values. So let me display my vector. So here it shows that it has the value 1, 2, 4 and 5. One important command that you will be using pretty often is the class, which will tell you the type of variable that you have, whether it is a character variable, whether it's a numeric variable, logical variable, etc. And you would be using this to find out what the class of your variable is, because that is essential when you are trying to manipulate the variable. So in this case, this my vector is a numeric variable. You can set a sequence for your vector by using this colon sign. So here I have 2:15, and so this sets this vector to have a value from 2 to 15. Notice that in R, the assignment has this slightly peculiar way of representing with an arrow pointing from the right to the left, as opposed to the usual assignment equal to sign. While this may seem odd, in fact it makes a lot more logical sense given the fact that you are assigning the RHS to the LHS. You can also look up, you can also do set a vector by using the sequence from a start number to end number and how much you want to increment the number. So let us look at this. So here I display this. When you type just the variable name, it will display what is the contents of that. So my vector shows that it starts from 5, ends at 50, and it increments by 5. And the nice thing about R is that you don't even need to do a Google to find out any information that you are interested in. You can just do the question mark and the function that you are interested in. In this case, I'm asking question mark sequence, so it is going to give me the help on that as in this lower right hand corner. I can look this up. So it has a description of this sequence function, how to use it, what are the parameters, arguments, what are the values the arguments can take, and finally at the bottom you will have a set of examples. So this is very useful when you are programming this with R. You can also use the help function. So there are two ways to do the sequence. One is by how much you want to increment from start to end, or you could give the length of the number of values you want between the sequence. So here I have given length 7 with start 6 and end at 43. A couple of other useful commands you would want to you would often be using is to know what your current directory is in which you are doing a data manipulation. So you can get that using getwd. Here it says C software R, or you can set let us change directory to the directory you're interested in. Notice the /, it accepts this even though I am on Windows. And after I set it, again check the directory in which I am in. It says it's C software R. Two other commands is ls, which will show you what are the objects that you have in your session. Since I only created one variable, my vector, it shows me that I have this in my session. I can show the contents of the directory in which I am in. It shows that I have this, which is what this is. So here I am going to set a vector starting from 2 to 20. I'm going to do some basic operation. I'm going to do something called subsetting. I'll start with 2, end with 20 and increment by 2. And then I display this. So So it starts from 2, ends at 20 and increments by 2. Then I try to get the elements from the 3rd to the 7th of this vector. So how do I do that? I put square brackets and give 3 colon 7. So this subsets this vector, my vector, from 3 to 7 and assigns it to this vector S. So now if I display S, it's going to show me the 3rd to the 7th. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So S is now the vector 6, 8, 10, 12 and 14. So that is subsetting. So let me create another vector, my vector 1. Basically I'm going to display certain arithmetic operations you can do on a vector. So I do my vector, in which I start from 3, end at 30 and increment by 3. Here I display my vector. Now I add my vector and my vector 1 using the plus sign. I display this. So here you see it is added element by element, 2 and 3, 4 and 6, 6, 2 and 3, 4 and 6, so on. So 2 and 3 is 5, 4 and 6 is 10, etc. You can also multiply, divide and subtract. It will do an element by element operation on these vectors. So once you have learned vectors, you can that's a very important data structure. Then the other important thing you would want to do is to work with data frames. A data frame is a tabular column of data which can have many rows and many columns. The unique property of data frames is that the columns can have different classes of variable, but each column should have one particular class. So you could have each column, the columns could be of character, numeric, logical, etc. But each column on its own will have to deal with one specific type of a variable. So let us look at the data frames that are available in R, which come pre-packaged. So here I have a set of pre-packaged data frames in R. So here I could have something about air passengers, on the carbon dioxide uptake in grass plants. What I would like to do is to use a data frame called iris, which is data about iris, which is Edgar Anderson's iris data. It gives data about a flower called iris. So let me assign this data frame to a variable called df. So as I said, a data frame is a tabular form with many rows and columns. So there are a set of operations that you would always tend to do on data frames. The first of which is to know the dimension, what is the number of rows and number of columns in the data frame. So, and that is dimdf. And the second thing you want to do is to find out what is the class of each variable in each column. So I use a function called sapply df comma class. So df is the data frame and class for each variable. So it says it has 5 columns, and the first 4 are numeric and the last is a factor. A factor is just different categories of the variable. The variable can belong to specific categories, and that is known as a factor. So as I said, the data frame will have a set of operations which are one of which is summary. Summary will summarize the data frame. So since the first 4 are numeric, it's going to tell me what is the minimum and maximum of that column, what is the mean of that column, what is the median, the first quartile and third quartile. So it does it for all these 4 columns, and then we have the factor variable, which is of 3 types, setosa, versicolor, and 3 categories basically, and virginica, and they are 15 number each. Another useful command for data frames is known as the str, which is also similar to a summary but gives a little bit more information. So here it shows that it has 4 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and then we have a factor with 3 levels, Setosa, versicolor and virginica, and it gives you some initial values of that. A couple of other important commands you will use in data frames is head of the data frame and tail of the data frame, which will display the top 6 elements of the data frame, or bottom 6 elements of the data frame. You could give any number here at this. Instead of 6, it could be 5, it could be 10, etc. Now let us try to subset the data frame. How we do that is we give the data frame, we give square brackets, the number of the rows you want to display, comma, the columns you want to display. Here I'm going to display rows 1 to 6 and columns 2 to 4. So when I execute this, it is going to show me rows 1 to 6 and columns 2 to 4 from the original iris data frame. In this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be subsetting. I haven't given anything for the rows, but in the columns I've said to display columns, subset columns 1 to 3. Since I've given rows, it will display all the rows, but it will only display the columns 1 to 3. So here, if you see, it has displayed all 150 rows, but the columns, it will only display columns 1 to 3. So only column 1 to 3. Here I display the rows 1 to 5, but I haven't given anything for columns, so I will display all columns. And this is how you subset. If you want to only work on a subset of the data frame and not the entire data frame, you choose the rows you want and the columns you want. Here I have chosen to subset only the first 5 rows and all the columns. So here I have chosen the first 5 rows but all the columns. A couple of other useful commands on data frames is names. What are the column names for your data frame? So the column name is sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and species, which could also, you could get this using call names df. So again, it gives this, you could use either of them, both are fine. And often when you are working with data frames, you would want to change the column names to something that is more easily manageable. So as an example, I have just made this change for the columns. From this sepal dot length and sepal dot width, I made it length of sepal and width of sepal, etc. So here I will execute this, and then I again display the column name. So you can see that it has changed the column names. So now another useful command that you would want to use in with data frame is to view. Instead of just using head and tail, you want to take a quick look at how the data looks. So an RStudio has a very nice option of using this view command and view the data frame, which will nicely display the data frame in a separate window. You can take a look at this. You can see that it has length of sepal, width of sepal, length of petal, width of petal, and the last is species, which is a factor. So you can see it has Setosa in versicolor and virginica, which is factor. Then you have numeric variables here. So that is how you can use view. And so let us display this again. This is the data frame. To get the value of a specific column, you would have to use the data frame, the $sign, and the column name. So here I am using this column name. So df $species is going to display this column, values of that column. So it has displayed all these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to subset based on a particular species. That is, I'm going to subset based on this Setosa value in this species column. So I choose the data frame dollar, the column name species equal to, that is equal to this particular value, and assign it to this another data frame called A. So I do that, and now I display the value of the variable A, which is a data frame. It has only picked, it will show me all the rows for which species is equal to Setosa. And now what it is telling me is that it has got true for rows 1 to 50 and false for all the other rows. Now what I can do is I can just subset the data frame, that is choose all the rows for which it is true, but I'll pick all the columns. So when I do this, I get and assign it to another data frame called B, and now I look at the dimension of B. So it says it is 50 rows and 5 columns. So I've chosen all rows which have set rows up and have subsetted the data frame. Now let us look at another thing. Here again I look at the column names. I have all these column names. I get all the values in the width of the sepal. So I do B dollar width of the sepal as before. These are the values, and now I want to find the mean. What is the average width of the sepal? So what I do is I call the function mean, and I give the data frame dollar the column name to find the average of the width of the sepal, and assign it to a value mean of sepal. So and then I try to display the contents of this. So it is 3.48. There is as before, always remember that you can always access help for any of the functions that you want by just using the question mark. So for example, I could just type in mean here, and I would get what this means, and I would get appropriate examples to use it also. So here I use the same sapply function for the columns 1 to 4, and I use the mean, that is I'm trying to get the mean for all the columns, and assigning it to a data frame called M. So when I do this, I get the mean for each of these columns. Now I'm going to do some basic, once we know a little bit of the data frame, I'm going to do a simple plot. So let us look at what a box plot is. A box plot is an essential, is a pretty useful display for numeric values. So this shows the help for the box plot. You can take a look at this. It will give you the mean, the median, and the first and the third quartile, and what is the spread of the data, etc. So I'm going to use that for the length of the sepal. I'm going to use a box plot for the data frame dollar length of the sepal, and I'm going to give a title length of the sepal. Let us see what it does. This does. So here you see that it has actually shown the mean here. It's around 5, and the first quartile, the third quartile, and then you have these whiskers. You can look up box plot and what they mean. Now sometimes you would want to, there's something again you would want to use pretty often, is to display multiple plots in your while display. So here we have, I'm going to create a 2 by 2 display of plots. So I have MF row as a C2 by 2. I set the margin, and I'm going to display all the box plots. So it will display as 2 by 2 matrix, and so it is pretty nice and compact that I can display all the variables change for the different columns. And you would always, when you're trying to use this MF row, when you're trying to create subplots, you'll have to reset the display, otherwise all your further displays will be again come as 2 by 2. So here I do a dev off to reset the display. Now one typical issue with this data frame, which comes prepackaged with R, is that they're all neat and tight. That is, they all have values in every row and every column, and they are of the same type. But in the real world, you would find data is dirty with the fact that you have some missing data, you have not available data, you will have some extra characters which you will have to clean. So I'm going to give you one example of that, in which I'm going to be using the data of Sachin Tendulkar, who's an Indian batsman, and I've got this data from ESPN Cricket Info. So here I read Tendulkar's CSV file. I check the dimensions, which is 347 rows, 13 columns, and as before I do some of the basic operations on this data frame. I do a summary. It gives me all the it says it has these columns: runs, mins, BF, X4, 6 SS. I do a STR. I check the call names. So these are the column names as runs, minutes. BF is balls face. X4 is number of fours. X6 is etc. I look up the top five rows. You can see top 5 rows has these columns, and you can see it has some values like D and B and hyphen, which are not clean. So again we look at the bottom 5, and then I look at the class of each column, which I said as before. I do this. It says it is all, most of it is a factor, okay, which is not a good thing. You may want to change it. Again, I would like to take a quick look at the data frame. As before, we use the view function and we give the data frame. When you do this, you can see it's not very clean. That it has, for the runs, it has values like D and B. You had as a star here. Then if you look at this, it has these hyphens and all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this data, and I'm going to use a set of commands. So first, before doing that, I would like to read the CSV once again and remove all these factors which are there and have them as strings. So you can look up the help for read CSV and look it up. There are multiple parameters. So I'm going to be using this 2 parameter string as factors equal to false, and I'm also going to tell that hyphen is actually a NA character. So I will do this. I check the dimension of the data frame is 347 and 13 columns, 3 rows and 13 columns. I again look at the thing. Now what was hyphen has been replaced by NA with this option strings, NA strings equal to C, NA comma hyphen. Now I want to remove all these DNB, TDNB, all this DNB and all those rows. How do I do that? First I find all rows that are not equal to DNB and assign it to a data frame A. And then since I have all rows which do not have DNB, I subset these rows. That is, I select these rows and all columns. And then I check the dimension from 347 has come to 330. Next I remove the rows which have TD and B, and I subset that. Then I remove rows which have absent, and I check the size. Now it is 329. And last I remove all rows which have this star character and replace it with and remove the star character here. So I get and now again I view it. You see I've removed all the star and the TDNB and absent and all that. It looks much cleaner now. Now I check complete cases. Complete cases is this function. Complete cases will check if all rows and all columns have values and there are no blanks. And this is, I assign it to a variable called C. Let us see what is C here. It's just a set of trues and false, which it's logical output. When I check the length of C, it is 329. But if I want to see how many actual complete cases were there, I can do a sum of C, which will add up all the trues, and it says it is 327. Now I subset Tendulkar, the data frame, with these rows, and I check the dimension. Now it says I have 327 rows and 13 columns. I look at the data, top 10 rows, it's clean, every row has a value. Now let me plot Tendulkar runs and Tendulkar balls faced. So I get a plot of this. Now I want to, this plot I want to add a title, I want to add an X label, balls faced, and Y label, runs. and I want to change this. Instead of this circle, I want to change it to some other symbol, and I'm going to redo the plot. So I've got a better plot now. And a typical thing is, typically when you get these plots, you want to do a linear regression line, and that the way you do that is use the function ln, and here you give the y value, Tendulkar bf ball space versus the Tendulkar runs. So I compute this and I draw a straight line through that. So if you look at this, it has given the points and the data line. So these are the two common functions you'll be using pretty often. Next, I'm going to do a histogram of the runs and histogram of the runs for Tendulkar. So this is histogram of runs. Now, so we have seen in the data frame there are a couple of things you would want to do. It's a pretty important type of data we'll be using often. So if you look at this, you have class, then you would want to do summary and the string function, and you want to check the column names. You can change the column names as shown above and do some basic plots. Now let's look at this. I would like to now go into a package called Dplyr, which is you will also use pretty frequently. So let me install this package. Install package in Dplyr. So it's downloading this. Then I call the library for this, and I'm again going to check the column names for Tendulkar. You've seen that these are the column names. Now Dplyr is a very useful R package which you can use to manipulate data. So here I'm going to select only those columns which are runs, minutes and balls faced, and the way you do that is use the command function select. Now when I do head df1 and assign it to data frame df1, you can see that it has picked up runs, minutes and bf, and see, if you notice that there's no dollar sign, you need to refer to these columns. Now same thing is, I can also do a filter where I pick all rows where the runs is greater than 50 and runs is less than 101, and I assign it to a new data frame df2. And now I can check this df2. It will show me all rows which are greater than 50, runs greater than 50 and less than 101. Now a third important function you use is to arrange, sort the value of a data frame. So you can use arrange, and I'm going to arrange the runs in a descending order. So here I've done it, and now I'm assigned it to a data frame descending runs. If I display first 5 rows of this, in the runs you can see its highest runs was 248, then 241, 217. It displays like that. A couple of other useful functions is group by. He has played, Tendulkar has played cricket matches on multiple grounds. I'm going to group by the ground. If you look at this, here it has grouped by the ground, the Karachi ground, then Faisalabad, Lahore, Sialkot. We'll do that one by one. And then I would like to show you another third most important command function, which is the pipe function, which has this symbol percentage greater than sign percentage. Here you can take the output of one function call and pipe it into another function, so you can string multiple functions and create one complex function all along a simple line. Here I would like to explain what I do here. I take the data frame Tendulkar, I group by the grounds in which he has played, and then I summarize the scores on each of the ground for the runs and calculate the average on each of these grounds. So this is what I do, and I do this by piping from data frame by grouping by ground and then calculating the average in each of these grounds and assign it to data frame mean runs. So here I've done it. Let me display this mean runs here. You can see that Adelaide is made an average of 32.6, Ahmedabad 40.125, Auckland 5, etc. So if I look at the column names of mean runs, it has only two column names. One is ground and then the other one M, which is the average. Now I'm going to do a bar plot of this to see displayed graphically. So here you can see for Tendulkar, choose the average runs he made in each of these grounds, and it has displayed the ground here and the how much he made. So for example, in Colombo he has made close to an average of 150, etc. So these are the bare essentials. So once more let me reiterate. These are the kind of functions you will be using most often, and you can get started right away. Get a good handle on vectors, how to subset vectors, about sequences, how to get the help on any topic using question mark or help, how to change get the current directory you're working in, set the current directory, and you can do any arithmetic operations on vectors. And then we have data frames, and a couple of important functions you use in data frames are the dimension, checking the dimension of the data frame, which is Indian, getting the summary of the data frame, and using either summary or str, checking the top 5 or number of top or bottom rows. Then how to subset a data frame by using the colon operator, comma for the row and colon for the column. How to subset it, how to get the column names of a data frame, how to change the column names, how to view your data frames, how to refer to some specific column using the $sign, and then some basic plots, how to do some basic plot, how to display multiple plots as a n by n matrix, how to reset the display, and then again we saw how to do some basic cleaning of the data by subsetting and then removing those rows which have those offending characters, and I do a basic plot here, how to fit a regression line, and then finally we come to the Dplyr package where I showed you how to select specific rows using the select function, how to select specific columns using the select function, how to select specific rows using the filter function, and how to arrange, sort the data frame according to some column, how to group based on some factor variable, and how to pipe from one output of one command into another command into one single thing. So the next steps is to basically probably play around with some other data frames available in R, or you can pick up with any data that you have available from any of the data sources that are there. So getting back to this, you can use the data frames with R or download Excel or CSV and get started with. Just a point to note is that you do not again need to know everything about the language to get started. I have just shown you what is most important to get started with R, and I would suggest that you use Google and Stack Overflow as you progress and learn as you go. I think with these topics that I have discussed now, you should be ready for takeoff, and you should have a pretty cool and interesting journey in art. So good luck in your art journey, and thank you for listening.